Hello, hi, welcome. My name is Lila. Hello, welcome folks, welcome. My name is Lila. I am the founder of A Stripper's Guide. I am a coach for sex workers and strippers and femmes. I have been a stripper for 8 years. I have worked at various clubs in the sort of like northeast of the United States. Hi, hello. Oh, I'm so excited people are here. Yay. Full disclosure, I worked last night and slept like 4 hours, and so that is why I sound like a baby frog. Today we are talking about how to sell champagne rooms. And so I'm assuming most people who are watching this live are in the industry, but this is also going to be available for playback on my channel. And thank you, Alex does this. I do not feel like an icon and a legend, but I'll take that today. That's the kind of energy I need. It's been a weird fucking week, which is also part of what I want to talk about today. Talking about selling champagne rooms, but what I'm going to be talking about today in terms of sales and selling is really applicable to anybody who runs your own business or sells a service. And so it'll live here in my Instagram, and you're welcome to share it around with folks who are not just strippers. But so the three main things that I want to talk on today, and please, if you have questions or comments, feel free to add them to the chat. But I also understand that not everybody who's a stripper is free to be public about your status. So if you don't want to participate in the chat and you want to message me after the call or after this live, I'd be happy to answer your questions in the DMs as well. So the three things I'm going to be talking about today are how to attract clients you want, how to stay in control with difficult clients, and how to hold your boundaries without fear of losing the sale. And so what you're not going to get from me is here's 100 lines that you can say to pick up a client and bring them to the champagne room. If you are interested in like a direct sales approach and that's all you're interested in, this is probably not the place for you. So I don't want to waste your time because I don't feel like any way is better than the other. We're all just out here trying to earn our bag in a society where sex workers and strippers, I'm going to use the word strippers in this live just because Instagram does not like the smex workers term. So I'm just going to keep saying strippers, but like, I want to be very clear from the beginning that like my position and my positionality in this, I am a thin cis white woman. And so because we live in a capitalist white supremacist patriarchy, I have extreme privilege, not only in society, but also in the sex industry. So I'm not saying that like my way is the right way. And I'm not saying that like one way of earning money is better than another way. And because strippers are inherently in a position that is less powerful than our clients systemically, because our clients are mostly cis men and also they're all paying us. So we depend on them for our income. They don't depend on us. We are a novelty in most cases, and they pay our bills. So whatever you have to do to make your money, cool, do it. These are just some things that I have found work along the way, and that I have found work for a lot of the strippers that I've tutored into the industry and mentored into the industry. And so I want to share them with you. So that's like a long prelude, but it took a lot. So starting with how to attract clients you want. You're not going to like this maybe, but it starts with your mentality. It starts with your ability to let go of clients you don't want and make room for the ones you do. And so that to me is like the bottom line, like 101 basis of everything in terms of going to work. And what I see a lot in strip club culture, it's so interesting because there's such an emphasis on hustle culture within the clubs, but the sex industry itself is antithetical to hustle culture because the sex industry has its own sort of fluid rhythms and currents. Most of us don't work 5 days a week, 9 to 5. Like, most of us don't work these scheduled set hours. Most of us go into work when we want to, or when we need to, or when we feel like it. And like, or when, when life it makes us have to go to work. So that in and of itself is like not a capitalist structure. And so the whole like hustle and grind, I was actually just talking last night to a young stripper at my club about the like hustle mentality and this idea that like working harder is better, or being more productive is going to yield the results that are ideal for you. When in actuality, our jobs as strippers, like, and I am all for like, call a spade a spade. I call myself a stripper, but our official job title in most clubs is entertainer. And I think that that's important to look at and to sort of fold into the way that you approach your work, if you want to approach it with more ease and joy and longevity. Because our job, stripping is finite, right? Like, if I take off my clothes, if all you want is to see me take off my clothes, I take off my clothes and then you got what you wanted, and then our interaction is over, and so is our transaction. But if I am entertaining you, that means that I am providing an experience. And you can't get the experience that you can get with me, you can't get it with anybody else, because I'm me. And so once, like, I encourage people, as soon as you can, break out of the idea that you are in competition with the other dancers. Because really, what your job is not to worry about what anybody else is doing. Your job is to worry about what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, this is an interpersonal experience between you and a client. It is not about anybody but the people inside the experience. And so, that being said, I know plenty of strippers who work on the hustle and grind, and they are literally in the club. I don't know how they do it, but they'll be in the club 5, 6, 7 days a week. And their mentality is like, I call them sharks, and I have plenty of friends who are sharks, and there's nothing wrong with being a shark. And if that works for you, great. You probably aren't here because it's working for you. And so like, they're swimming through the club all night like a shark, and they're going to everybody, and it's a numbers game, and they're hitting everyone. Like, they see somebody who's available, they go talk to that person. I am not a shark. I am a crocodile. I lay and I wait, and when I see what I want, I chomp. And that, to me, has been a much more sustainable model than trying to hit every single customer. But that means that I had to let go of the idea that I'm losing out if I don't go hit every single customer. And so it's really become a practice in tuning my energy into the frequency that I want to be in that will maximize my potential. And that's the other thing about this industry that you got to get real comfortable with real fast, is you're not going to make the same amount of money every night. I don't approach sales from a fear-based lens in anything that I do, including the strip club, which is saying something, because in the strip club, I'm selling to rich white men mostly. But I find that fear-based tactics are just out of sync with my personality, and I don't really I don't enjoy doing that. So, but at the end of the day, like I said, we're not in a position of power in our industry. So if you need to use fear-based tactics to sell within the sex industry, I totally understand that and I respect that. But it's a lot more work to sell from a fear-based perspective. And I see this a lot with my colleagues. Hold on, I see a comment that I just want to acknowledge. It says, "This is the hard reality that many aren't prepared for when they get started." Yes, the reality that you don't necessarily make the same amount of money every day, especially in a culture telling us that each day we are alive, we have to do more and do better than we did the day before. And so if you're working in an industry where your income is not guaranteed, you can start to feel real deflated real fast if you don't let go of the idea that not every day is going to be the same. Also, this shit takes time. Like, it takes time to become really skilled at selling entertainment. Like, it just does. And when you first start out in the industry, like, that's why I really encourage folks to give it like at least a year. I mean, if you're mentally or emotionally like being damaged by being in the industry, please get out. But like, I'm not saying like do your time and like grit your teeth. But like, if you don't mind the job and you're just, the only thing is that you haven't reached that place where you're getting pretty consistent money, stick it out, because a lot of this is learn as you go shit. This is, to me, ethical and joyful sales are an art and a science. They are not one or the other. And so if you go in thinking that they are just a science, you're always going to be chasing a better formula. And if you go in thinking they're just an art, you are probably going to lose confidence in your ability to be creative and artistic with it, because you're like, oh, I'm not doing the art the right way because I'm not getting the sales that I want. It's finding tactics that work for you and also infusing your own wisdom and experience into it. And so back to this first point of attracting customers that you want, learn to use your strengths. If you are the type of person who likes to get into like really heady political conversation, if you really enjoy conversation, like substantial conversation, and you like having your mind tickled and you like being able to tickle other people's minds, that's a huge strength. Don't hide that. Don't hide that in the club. There's like all these stereotypes and ideas that are so useless. Please do not let men tell you how to do sex work unless they're sex workers. Like, there's all these ideas. I've run into this stereotype so many times that like customers don't want a political stripper. Customers don't want an intelligent stripper. Customers don't want somebody who's ready to get in and intellectually spar with them. That could not be further than the truth. Like it's not all customers are going to want that. Some customers do want you to fulfill a different need. They want you to be dumb or play dumb or be simple. And I understand that as well. But if you're somebody who figure out what you like and then try that out on customers and see who bites and see who responds. And the more you do that, the more you will start to feel out energy as like sooner. So when you first start talking to somebody, when you first start talking to a customer, you'll start learning how to suss out who they are and how who they are matches up with who you are, or an aspect of who you are. Another thing about this that I've learned over the years, it took becoming a stripper for me to even start to understand that I have autism, because a huge part of the industry, because again, entertainers, not strippers, a huge part of being in the industry is entertaining folks, which means I have to meaningfully connect with you. But having autism means I have a really hard time faking it, because there's just a lot of social cues that I don't understand, or that I don't pick up on them right away. And so like any autistic people who are watching this, like, you know what it feels like when you're trying to fake a social interaction and you're trying to guess what you're supposed to say next and you have no idea. And that happens to me every single shift. It happens to me with customers and it happens to me with other strippers. I have so many moments in my life where I'm like, is this how you be a person? I don't know. And so like, it really has become a survival strategy for me in the industry to be able to figure out what my strengths are and how to use them. And my strengths are not the same as the next person necessarily, and that's okay. For example, like last night, I make a lot of money talking at work. One of my good friends at work, she hates talking to customers. She's like, I would rather just get paid for lap dances. I don't mind the physical labor, but like the emotional labor of like talking to customers is too much for me. Like, I'm shy and it drains me and I hate it. And somebody said, oh my God, me, #neurodivergent awareness. Yes, especially neurodivergent self-awareness when it comes to you and your money, like figuring out how your neurodivergence interacts with your ability to earn. I mean, we're in capitalism, so we're not earning it. We're like forced to do it, like whatever. Okay, tangent. But yeah, so like figuring out, like I want to talk all night. That's my ideal customer. And you know what? I land a lot of them. I land a lot of customers that just want to sit and chat. And plenty of those customers will pay me as much as they would pay me in a champagne room out at the bar. That was my night last night, was sitting at the bar and talking, and I made my money there with one customer. And that is often an experience that I have. And so I do encourage you, if you're somebody who has the gift of gab, try it out. You're not going to scare them away. You might scare some of them away, but they're not the ones for you. And Because the point is to make money, right? And whether your money's in a room or outside of the room, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to champagne rooms, finding who's magnetized to you makes it 10 times more easy. Because here's the thing. It's great to get a customer in the champagne room, right? But to me, that's not the goal. The goal is to keep them there. It's like, because here's like, if I'm not vibing with the customer, they're not likely to tip me very well in the champagne room. So even if I can like hustle and hassle and like cajole them into a room for a half an hour or an hour, if they don't love their experience in there, I could leave that feeling emotionally depleted. Gina said in California, we have to meet a dance quota. Ugh, that is not surprising. That's like, cis men should not be running these clubs. Like, there's no reason why cis men should be in charge of the sex industry. It's like wild how much more money we could be making if the sex workers were actually in charge. But I want to see folks, this is why it's so important to let go of the lack mentality and to really do what you got to do to get yourself into a place where you are as emotionally comfortable as possible going into the club so that you can be relaxed and be loose and be open to opportunities that not everybody else is going to even see. And if your only goal, if you're like, I gotta get in the fucking champagne room, that's the only thing that is gonna work and I have to do this, and you're like strong-arming customers in there, you're gonna end up maybe making as much in the rooms without a tip as you could on the floor. And so if your goal is to get into the champagne room, I wanna encourage you to expand that goal and to be like, I want to stay in the champagne room. For me, it's not my goal to go into work and get a room. It's my goal to go into work and get a room for 4 hours, because that is the type of shit. I mean, and it depends where you work. It depends where you work, 100%. Again, I want to like totally acknowledge the place of privilege that I come from. I work in clubs with very wealthy customers. And so if you do work in that type of club, you are gauging your champagne rooms in a different type of way. So that's the other thing. It's super important to understand the demographic of the club that you're in and who's coming in and what kind of money do they have. And like, if you are in a position where you're in a class with like, in a club with like working class folks and people who like $500 to $1,000 for a champagne room is like almost unattainable to them or feels like a huge expense, it's definitely true that some of them will be happy to pay for your time in there just to hang with you and just to talk with you. But it's also true that if you're in that type of situation, oh, thanks, Susie. Susie said, I'm loving this perspective. That makes me happy. I'm really glad to hear that. I hope that this is landing with folks, and I hope that this helps people. So if you are in a club with, like middle income folks, it's a different game. The objective is always to get money, right? You're at work, you want to get paid. But being able to be realistic with ourselves around who we are working with is really important, first and foremost. And so I'm not suggesting that like, if you're in a club where most of the people who come in are like, yeah, like, middle income folks, I'm not saying like, oh, you're doing something wrong if you're not ending up in 4-hour champagne rooms every night. I'm not saying that at all. But these tactics are useful regardless. And that actually brings me to my next point, which is, actually before we do that, I just want to let you know that I have my candles here because I'm going into work tonight. So sorry, I can't pronounce your handle. Laurie said, I think this is the top one way to work. I agree, because it's sustainable. Like, working in a way that is sustainable is so important because you don't want to burn out. Gina said, connecting with customers is hit or miss with the questions I ask. What types of questions do you ask? Also, thank you for going live. Oh my God, I love this question. Also, my like squirrel brain, I was about to show y'all that I have these candles here because I'm going to work later. And so I just wanted to like real quick, I am going to answer your question, Gina, but I just wanted to also like let folks know the kind of stuff that I do before I go to work. So I meditate. I light my candles. I do my, sort of like set my intentions. Sometimes I pull tarot cards. That's my thing. That's my practice. That might not be your practice, but I lit a red candle that is my root chakra. So that's safety. That's a feeling like that's me grounding into the feeling that I'm safe, right? Like I'm safe, I'm here, I'm grounded, I have what I need, I am resourced, and so I don't need to go chase it. Like I can go trust that I have what I need. I'm the candle, I inscribed on the candle, I'm safe, I'm loved, I have community. Because so much of that hustle mentality is the idea that I have to do everything myself. But this week, I lost a lot of money this week. I got two of our cats got really sick, and I'm already like, we're going on vacation next week. And so suddenly this week jumped from like, we were planning for our vacation, which was a good chunk of change. And now suddenly we have like upwards of $3,000 in vet bills and climbing because the cats still need more tests and stuff. And so this week was like a big money hit for me. And it could be easy to slip into that lack mentality and go in and start like approaching customers with that kind of like almost desperate energy, and that is much more likely to repel than it is to attract. It's also likely to attract customers that can pick up on that energy and want to use you and want to take advantage of the fact that you might be in a sort of scarcity energetic. And so reminding myself that I have community is really important, because it makes me remember that like no matter what I lose, I have people I can count on. And then I lit a black candle for protection, which I do almost every day, and I inscribe into the candle almost every single day. I am protected physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and digitally. And then I lit a yellow candle because I didn't have a green one, and that one is for attracting dream clients and abundant opportunities and money and all that. So sidebar. So somebody asked, what type of questions do I ask customers to, get them into conversation, get them feeling comfy, get them feeling good? Such a great question. And again, for me, that I also, my questions don't always land either, because I'm neurodivergent and weird. And so sometimes I'll be asking questions and I just feel like Napoleon Dynamite. And I'm like, okay, bye, this isn't working. But like, I start with, like, what's your name? And how are you? How was your day? What did you do tonight? What did you do before you came here tonight? Just showing some interest in them. Ask them where they came from. Like, oh, are you from around here? Are you traveling? Are you traveling for business? What do you do? Ask them what they do. Definitely ask them what they do, because that will help you gauge what kind of money they're working with. And so, I would say staple questions that for you to inform yourself about what you're working with, what they do. And then also for my astrology nerds out there, and I might do a whole nother live on this, because this is truly a part of how I work. At some point in the conversation, if it's going well and we're flowing, I'll ask them their birthday, because I want to know their sign. Because when I know their sign, I know how to approach them. And again, it's not a science. It's not fact. I'm not saying that everybody has to do this, but I'm saying that it works for me, hands motherfucking down. Like, it really works for me, because if they tell me they're a Sagittarius, I know we're about to have fun. Like, for me personally, Sagittarius is the funnest sign in the strip club, because they just want to party. They could almost give a fuck that I'm there. Like, Saggies are the biggest spenders in my experience. They'll take you to the champagne room and just keep going, because they don't fucking know when to stop. And so if you find yourself with a rich Sagittarius, call all your friends and take them to the back if you can. But it also, when I find a Sag, I know I gotta tap into my party animal. And like, that's really, I can turn that on. It's not my natural state, but like, I can turn that on, and that works there. And it's time to talk about fun shit. It's time to talk shit. It's time to talk about, like, let them Google pictures of people they don't like so they can talk shit to you about them. Like, if they're a fire sign, make it about them and show them a good time. And so really truly asking them their birthday, I would say, is a question that I find really helpful to work with. If they're a Capricorn, I know to set right there off the bat, I know they're going to be generous but reasonable, and I'm not going to expect a big tip, which means, but also I find Capricorns generally don't don't try to push my boundaries. Like, I don't know. I love Capricorns, but I'm like, I don't get it. What are we doing? They'll like take you to the champagne room and you'll just like sit there and talk about nothing because they're like, I'm not opening up to you, but also don't touch me. I hate everyone. Here's some money. Goodbye. And so yeah, like if they're a Pisces, I walk away. I'm sorry, it just doesn't mix with me. It doesn't work for me. But really, truly, like if you are tuned in, like whatever works for you, and if you're somebody who is tuned in to like astrology and stuff, and you know like certain energetics are less likely to work with you or more likely to work with you, like I really would start keeping track of who's going to the champagne room with you over time, so that you can kind of feel out if you're having some type of like continuity in your experience in terms of like what type of person is in the room with you regarding like their astrological makeup, if that's something you care about. Another thing that is really relevant too is where they're from. If they're from if they're from the States, finding out what city they're from and if they frequent strip clubs in that city or in another city, because you might quickly learn that they're from a city where they expect much more contact or like, you know, extras. They expect certain services that you aren't necessarily prepared to give, like, because maybe they come from a city where the strip clubs are also functioning as like unofficial, you know, like it's so hard to talk about this stuff on Instagram because you get blocked for saying some of it, but like they're expecting extras. They're expecting based on the city they're in, and if you can just steer them, like clarify for them, oh, like that's not what it's like at this club, or that's not what I do, or whatever. A lot of them will just be like respectful and understand and be like, oh, okay, I didn't get it because it's different in Tampa. But a lot of them also, it's important for your own safety and talking about the next thing, which is like how to stay in control with difficult clients and also how to hold your boundaries. If there is a client who right off the bat is asking you for favors or services in the back room that you are not prepared to perform, that to me, over time, I've learned how to work with that, because I used to just walk away because it was too much for me, and I knew that it wasn't something that I could feel emotionally or physically safe, like kind of avoiding in the back room. So I definitely am a proponent for like, don't overpromise, don't lead customers on to believe that they're going to get more from you in the back room. Like if all you do is dance, be honest about your limits up front. I know a lot of dancers who don't feel comfortable doing that. They're afraid to lose the sale. They're like, no, I just lead them on. I let them think they're going to get what they want. And then I take them back there and I just like, you know, make excuses or whatever. And I'm like, if that's what you do, that's totally cool. But for me, that energetic doesn't work. Gina said, right, I finally found a club in Cali where the girls don't do extras. We can't even go topless in the back. And that's fine. Like, and truly, like, I have worked in clubs where it is a mixed bag, and that also can be used to your advantage. And that is an approach that after a lot of time in the industry and a lot of getting to know myself and feeling confident with myself, I don't mind like working. Gina said, I also respect everyone's hustle. Yes, exactly. And so if you're comfortable working with somebody whose boundaries are different than yours, and somebody who's willing to do more or perform more services than you are, like that's a money-making combo right there, especially if you've got complementary personalities. Like for me, like I said, I'm a talker. I'm really good at getting customers into the room, and if they want more than I'm willing to give, then I know who I can call on. I have friends who I know I can call on, so we can share that labor, because I just got my friend a room. I just made my friend money, and now my friend is about to make us a fat tip. And that is great. And like, that works for me. It doesn't work for everyone. Not everybody likes to do that. I totally respect that. Like whatever makes you comfortable. And so, but in terms of staying in control with difficult clients, if you know that they're going to either, they want more than you have to give, or you feel like they're going to push your boundaries no matter how firmly you state them, safety in numbers, like how to stay in control with them, safety in numbers. First of all, go back in a group or don't go back. Don't go back into a room if you're scared. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I mean, that's not a judgment, because again, I understand everybody's in a different position, and sometimes you gotta fucking make your money, and like, unfortunately, you are in a dangerous situation. I'm not like saying that's your fault. It's never your fault if somebody takes advantage of you or abuses you.